411 Calisthenic Lifestyle Podcast, where we bring you tips and tricks to improving your calisthenic practice to get you faster results you deserve. Hotep, I am that I am. Some call me Haru, your modern monk, your cannabis fitness strategist, back at it again with episode 17, your 411 Calisthenic Lifestyle Podcast, with a great interviewee today, Brian Copland. How you doing?
I am doing great, Haru. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I've been trying to get this kind of solidified for about a year or so.
Glad we could finally do it.
Yeah, and kind of get some of your interests and, kind of learn a little bit about you and whatnot. So it's been a minute. So introduce yourself. Who are you? I know you representing Copland Core Fitness. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Great. Well, I'll try not to be too wordy, but I'm the owner of two small businesses. One is ProgressiveCombatSystems.com, and the other one is Copland's Core Fitness, which is at bccorefitness.com. And Progressive Combat Systems is a reality-based combative martial arts training program. I've worked with a lot of folks from law enforcement and corrections officers and flight crews for some airlines, and then I primarily work with just regular men and women who want to be safe and they want to they want to be sheepdogs, not sheep.
Got you. Make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
What actually?
And then I was just going to say real quick on the fitness side, what I primarily specialize in is behavior change. And because, a lot of folks, there's some folks that have motivation to, they want to compete in the sport. And a lot of times that the sport might actually be the exercise, like powerlifting or Olympic weightlifting or possibly even some of the calisthenic competitions. But a good majority of my clients, they want to look better and feel better about themselves. So a lot of that, of course, is, putting on muscle, getting stronger, changing their diet so that they can, lose body fat. And what I've discovered is that just a lot of that is through behavior change coaching. So I've got an extensive background in that. And then there's one final piece that I never thought I would get involved in, but it became something that became a passion of mine, and that is getting people out of pain.
Okay. Yeah,
So that's the quick version.
Okay.
Hopefully.
No, that's on point. I know you do a weekly show, a YouTube channel. I know you got a YouTube channel that you do weekly, or is it bi-weekly?
Well, I'd love to tell you how consistent I am, but it tends to come in fits and spurts. So I don't have a schedule, but I put out a lot of combative martial arts content, and I currently I'm putting out very little fitness content, but at some point I'll start putting that out.
Yeah, because I'm a pretty much a fan. I've been pretty much watching everything you've been since I've discovered you. 2 years ago now? I mean, time is flying.
I think so.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting too, just seeing what you've been putting out, because it's given me a lot of good ideas too, not just good ideas, but certain ways to train and implement in my training. So who or what has been your influence to pursue this approach, going into the industry, as far as the fitness industry, and then the martial arts side of the I can't even speak, entrepreneurship.
Great. So I've always just had a passion for being fit and martial arts, from being a child, right, all the way through teenage years. And I had some pretty troubled teenage years that I probably won't get into. It led me to some self-realizations, some revelations, and just fitness and fighting had always been a passion. Now, I hadn't always pursued that passion. I'd kind of gone in, times where I had worked in corporate America, slaving away at a job that I didn't like.
Yeah.
Not that you have to slave away in corporate America. There's people that would like it. But I ended up getting involved. I actually I guess real quick, I'll say that I suffered from really severe lower back pain, sciatica, whatever you want to call it, for just about a decade.
Wow.
And that lasted from, the very first time I felt pain, I was actually 17. I was like doing some kind of stupid deadlift that I didn't know what I was doing, didn't have good coaching, and you know how that goes. You get an injury, and it's like, oh shit, you're on the ground. And, you just lay there for about 20 minutes and hope someone else puts the weights away. And then, you kind of move on and life is good, right? But then I got involved in some mixed martial arts at the time, because that was back in '94 and the UFC had just come out. So I joined an MMA gym, and probably the only one in the state at that point. And the back pain just kept coming back over and over again. And I got to tell you, it was severe, man. It was debilitating. And I just fought through it being tough because I didn't know what else to do.
Interesting.
I ended up kind of finding just reading was a Muscle Media magazine back in the day, I think it was.
Yeah, you're right. I think that was one of them.
Yeah. I came across a guy named Pavel Tsatsouline who was throwing these crazy kettlebell things around. And I'm like, I read about it, and he also did a lot of body weight calisthenic work. And I read about what he's doing, and I'm like, that sounds like all the things I want, but it just sounds crazy. But I dove in, and I'm like, what's going to happen? I'm already in pain. It can't get worse. And after about 6 months of doing kettlebell swings, I remember waking up one day and it didn't hurt to tie my shoes.
Wow.
And I was like, hey, what's going on here? So I ended up doing that for probably a couple of years, training with kettlebells. I ended up actually going and getting certified as what back then was a RKC kettlebell certified instructor. That was back when there wasn't anyone around teaching. So I was one of the first instructors in the country.
Wow.
And then serendipitously, I was laid off by my company. And it just so happened that I thought, well, you know what? Now's the time to make this push. And I started my business.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's nice. Going into, and that really kind of, so the third question is, how have your path keep you grounded far as a business life, utilizing the business life and running a gym? I know it can be a little hectic. How are you balanced, even getting your own training in, your own personal training in, and then having to teach others or run a business? That's kind of crazy.
Yes.
Let some of the listeners get a little more grasp of how that feel, or what type of energy levels you have to, come to every day in, day out. Mentality. What does that look like?
Okay, that's a great question. So by nature, I am not a highly motivated, highly energetic guy. So I have to fake it till I make it. I just sincerely am not. I'd rather move in slow speed and be really precise about what I do. But I'm like producers who goes out and just gets a lot of stuff done. I'm just not.
Sure.
So what I have to do is I have to organize and structure my day in order to get things done properly. Now, when I first got into this business, as is my nature, I did a ton of research. I asked people, I read articles, I reached out to other people in the industry, and I'm like, hey, what does this look like? The same question you just asked me.
Mm-hmm.
And what I found out is that a lot of people in the fitness industry are getting up super early, seeing clients in the morning, seeing sporadic clients in the middle of the day. Then they're seeing clients at the end of the night, when people are getting off of work, and they have these huge work days. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm naturally kind of more of a night owl. So I just decided I'm not training morning clients. I'll start from this time and work to this time, and people will have to adjust to my schedule.
Gotcha.
Work. And really, there's just something about, putting your foot down, being firm, and saying, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm not going to let myself be run ragged.
Sure. Sure.
And then of course, part of that question was, how do I find time for my own training? Well, that's another thing that I will read from other fitness professionals, is that they oftentimes don't find the time to get their own training in, and their own training goals suffer, and their body doesn't get as good. So what I have done, I've traditionally always exercised alone, but I'm definitely one of those misery loves company kind of people.
Gotcha.
So I'd rather be with just a small group of like-minded people, 3, 4, 5 other people that are like in the same mode. So I've had different things happen over the course of my years being in business, and I'm sure it'll evolve and change in the future. But as it currently stands, I have a Train with Brian class that I teach on Wednesdays, Friday evenings.
Nice.
I've got like four people in there who are just, they're all motivated, and they pretty much follow this program I do. And then on Mondays, I do my own kind of abbreviated program along with some soccer practice. So I'm getting 3 good solid days of strength training in, and I do a little bit of additional stuff for my legs on Tuesdays. So.
And one of the things I just want to throw out there, I mean, you look like you don't really need to be, don't take me wrong, don't take this personal either, but you look like you stay in shape practically all around, year round. So you really don't need as much work, I would say, when people ask me, in some cases I don't have to train literally. Don't take me wrong. I mean, I can probably get away with 1 day of the week right now, just where my body's standing, right? And that's not to brag or anything like that. It's just you have put in enough repetition. You have put in enough time. You know what your body can take. You know what you can adjust with, the food you're eating, whatnot, and certain things. Don't take me wrong, because, I mean, if you don't use it, you lose it. I mean, keep it real with you. But just build on that. Did you have any more you wanted to add? That's actually a genius, to Train with Brian. I like that.
Yeah.
Kind of cool.
Yeah. Well, and you pointed out, maintaining is typically easier than creating and building, both in terms of, strength. It usually takes a little more work to build strength. I'm interestingly enough one of those people that on certain lifts, I can do like 1 set 1 day a week and make progress on like something like a squat or something. But there's other exercises where that doesn't quite work. And then building muscle, I have to do quite a bit more volume than that, or I'll get stronger, but I won't really put on much muscle. And at this point in my life, I'm strong enough. I want to look good.
And that's where it comes. That's where it comes down to too, especially as you get older, because I mean, that's really the catapult, right? I mean, when you think about it, look good, or feel good. Don't take me wrong. Look good and feel good.
Look good, feel good, move good,
yes.
Be pain-free, be able to move into any position you want.
Indeed. Yeah, that's why I'm a big.
And then also, when it takes, especially for a lot of people, the hardest thing is the diet aspect, right? You don't get 6-pack abs by you get those, through what you do, eating wise, right? And those habits are the hardest to establish. But once you've figured out what works, maintaining it is now much easier.
Exactly. And that's what's the cool thing about these particular intermittent fasting. That's what I really been enjoying about that. But that's another subject matter. But what has been some of the pitfalls that my listeners can take from you right now and stumbling across, as far as what you've been doing in the last, how long you been in business? 6, 7 years now? It's been, I know you've been at the establishment in Aurora. You was longer than that. I know it had to been longer than that.
I think it's 11 or 12. I think it's 12 years.
Yeah. So what's been like some of your major pitfalls? Because I know, like, my last interviewee, Matt Hamill from Green Door Fitness, he was talking about the struggling with hiring folks, especially at a little boutique gym and whatnot. That was one of his biggest pitfalls he was working with. What are some of your particular pitfalls that you're, something that you kind of overcame throughout the time, obviously, and I'm sure sometimes it revisits every once in a while.
Oh man, God, there's so many. Where do I begin? I mean, it's funny. It's not like you go into business knowing what you need to know. I mean, I knew nothing. The only thing that I had going for me when I started my business is that I was a cheapskate. Meaning I was good with money. I wasn't out to spend money. And It's funny. There's a gym that I pass, a little kind of small gym, kind of like mine. And I drive past it every day on the way to work.
Okay.
And this thing has opened and closed and opened and closed and opened and closed. New ownership every time, new management, and it's never lasted. And every time I see it open, it's all this brand new equipment and all this remodeling. And the thing that goes through my head is these people are in debt. And if they don't start making money quick, they're going to close down within a year or less. Mm-hmm. And it does, and it saddens me. I don't like seeing, other small businesses go out of business. But one of the biggest things that I would tell people is you got to be good with money. Don't spend anything you don't need to. Find a way to do it on the cheap. And then after that, it's just, can I cuss? Can I swear on this podcast?
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, it's a split.
Okay. All right. Just be fucking brave and bold and go out there and say what you're passionate about and be okay with rejection. I mean, that was one of my big things is, starting the YouTube channel was good for that. Cause it's like, all right, I'm putting myself out there. I'm getting over rejection because, you're going to have your haters come. At this point, I'm like, I don't give a crap what anyone thinks. I don't care at all what anyone thinks except for the people that like me. That's who I care about.
And that's the key. I think that's really the key because more people seem like, especially these bigger channels and whatnot, they seem like they focus on the haters too much. They give them too many props that are really just doing what, giving value to the people who's actually respect your particular work or, your ideas or your concepts and whatnot, and just move forward. That's why I usually don't get caught up in my comments and whatnot either, or certain things people, because you're going to have haters regardless, even if you're resonating on a Bill Gates or a Donald Trump status.
Oh, especially the bigger you get, the more haters you get.
Exactly. And, and it brings in a different mentality. But at the same time, I think if you stay on course, and the cool thing I enjoy about your mentality or your mindset, even on your martial art, how you approach, and don't take me wrong, I got a chance to sit down with you for maybe an hour. This was a year and something ago. Just your mind a little bit and kind of see where your approach is. And it's kind of interesting too, because it just where the discipline is, you can tell where your disciplines, rely, your allegiance, in other words. And that brings me to the next question. What has been a focal point with this pretty much aha moment within your profession? What has been that, like, okay, this is what I gotta get down, even though you kind of brought some to, the money management thing, be okay for rejection. You know what I'm saying? And kind of paying attention. What do you do to really kind of grasp you or put you back on track? Some of the tools, maybe.
Well, the one thing I try to do is I am obsessed with self-improvement, whether that be, like I started playing indoor soccer competitively a handful of years ago. And of course I never played before, so I sucked. And, but I've just committed myself to getting in the reps and practicing and getting better and better. As a combatives instructor, martial arts instructor, I'm obsessed with finding the truth, about real violence and what's the best way to survive it. In the fitness industry, I'm still going back, and I've gone through so many cycles of this is the right way to eat, this is the right way to exercise, this is all that. I'm constantly pursuing what the truth is and testing and trying and thinking about things and looking at them through the scientific lens. And then the same thing with business, which I won't lie, that's been my biggest obstacle in terms of feeling comfortable about making changes, because with me, I can go and I can make an improvement to me. I can work on charisma skills. I can work on relationship skills. The business is very interesting because a lot of people, myself included, they see if your business fails, you're a failure.
Interesting.
And that can really fuck with your head. And it can make you afraid to pull the punch and, to pull the trigger and to jump in and take action. So that is one of my biggest revelations. And that is, of course, now my biggest area of focus for improvement.
Okay. That's great. That's awesome. Yeah. And this is the point of this podcast, to really kind of get the mindset of fitness trainers, not just fitness trainers, but people in general, like how they respond to certain situations, certain environments, especially when it comes to physical, mental, spiritual, financial. That's one of the points I really like to pinpoint on this particular podcast, because it's like people are seeing all the good stuff. They never see the failures. They never see the problems in the background, what's really going on with the relationship you got with your mate, all the children you got to take and do this, do that. It's like that stuff is like at a place, but you got people like resonating on this success instead of really thinking about the other aspects of it. Let me just throw it like that. So what are some of the tools? What's some of the tools that you keep up with? I know you use YouTube, obviously. Certain things that you keep up with your business, like, you might have in, all these different apps to take care of certain things, or something that you can kind of not live without on your computer or your cell phone or whatever the case may be, to kind of handle your business.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a pretty straightforward guy. I get contacted by all these companies all the time. I just got a call and several text messages and emails today. I won't name the company, but they've been harassing me for years saying, you need our product in order to grow, manage your clients. I'm like,
planner.
I've got a folder with their names and their stuff in it, their waivers. I've got calendar on my Mac, and I can schedule all the repeating dates, and I've got the contact app. I don't need your stinking app. You know what I mean? Now, at some point, if I hire employees and I'm managing lots of different things, then I may need something like that. But at this point, I'm like I said, I'm cheap. I'm like, if I have a free calendar app and a free contacts app that comes with my phone and syncs with my computer, I'm not going to go buy something, right? So really, managing and tracking my clients in that sense hasn't been that big of a deal. Everything is paper for me. When it comes to the tools that I use, yes, YouTube. So I need a camera, which a camera phone is oftentimes sufficient enough, and to get a little, decently priced microphone. You don't need to go out and spend hundreds of dollars.
Agree.
All right, and then you need a way to edit the video, and I bought Final Cut
Pro.
For, I think it's 190 something. You can get other things that are cheaper. You can get other things that are more expensive. It works, so I use it. And then for my websites, I build them myself, and I use WordPress, and I taught myself how to do it. And believe you me, my first website was awful. That was before I was using WordPress. I think my first 2 or 3 websites were just just horrifying if you were to look at them. But the current ones are about to be redone again because I want a newer, more updated look. But for a business owner, obviously today you have to have a website and
presence.
Yeah, there's lots of ways you can do it yourself that you really didn't have in the past. The WordPress that I use, you need to put work and effort into learning how to be a web developer or designer if you're going to use WordPress. But I've never tried any of those like Wix or any of those other free builders. They're probably pretty darn decent, and I don't need nearly as much experience or practice. So those are
okay.
Those are the only tools. And oh well, you got to have a way to manage your money. So I just have a Microsoft Excel, and I created a profit and loss statement, and I made these little columns, and they synced up different pages, and I can put in the client's name, the date they're in, how much they paid, and boom, it creates a little sheet that I can give to my accountant at the end of the year. So yeah, I don't need any fancy pants stuff. I don't think anybody else does either. You don't need to go spend a lot of money.
Plus, mind your own business. That's the cool thing too. I mean, you know what you know what you're getting yourself into. That's the one thing I do like about the hands, because I'm a writer, so I like write I longhand my stuff out before I type it. And it just makes sense, because you can you can do a lot more than, when you're making adjustments within your content. You can change whatever you want, and then, okay, highlight this is what I'm going to do. And then you could put it on, so that is one of the things I was talking about earlier, about how the situation with the tools are great, but then the tools are kind of defeating the purpose too. They're kind of like time wasters or distractors too, from the bigger picture, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, hey, look, we're in the world of like excessive marketing. So everyone's coming out with apps, and they're trying to tell you why you need the apps. And sometimes apps are great, but sometimes they are just noise. I mean, someone's trying to get me to do a productivity app, and I'm like, yeah, but I've already, I'm using like what is this, Apple Notes or whatever, and I've got it broken up by to-dos, personal to-dos. I've got another thing for my business to-dos, and then, other things I need to get done. And it's all that's really important is that someone finds a system to stay on track.
Yes.
That's what's important.
Agree. What do you think is the most important quality or attribute that you contribute to your success?
Learning how to be more charismatic. Personality, learning how to build rapport. So, for instance, you can be the smartest trainer or whatever it is that you do in your particular area. But if you can be a fantastic marketer, right? So you have lots of people coming in through the door, but can you keep people? Because in this business, I mean, I like, think about something like 24-hour fitness, like their model. That's not our model, right? We don't have like this big gym with this huge overhead, and we get thousands and thousands and thousands of people that come in and sign up, and like, 90% of them never show up. They're locked into some 2-year contract, guaranteed money. And then we use, New Year's guilt on people, resolution guilt, to like have them come in and sign another contract. No, we have to have personal relationships with our clients. We need to be present with them. We need to show them warmth, and we need to show power, charisma, to show expertise. So we need them to trust us, and we need them to know that we aren't just like, oh yeah, here's a program, blah, 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 blah. But it's, no, I'm listening. What's important? Oh, you said that hurts. Let's see what happens. And quite honestly, when you're working one-on-one with people, you're going to have a lot of times where if they trust you, they're going to start sharing things about their personal life.
Oh, yes. Agree.
And you need to be ready to like ground yourself out for that. And I mean, I had several people, tell me about relationship problems, and it may not be within our area to give them advice, but I've actually studied a hell of a lot of it, so I do give advice. But whatever, the only reason that they ask me now is because they trust my advice. And I can't tell you how many people have told me, even just this week, what an impact I make on their lives.
Wow.
Like both physically and in their personal lives. And I got to tell you, man, for all the listeners that think, owning your own business is great, it's a pain in the ass. And it's awesome, both, right? I mean, the anxiety and the stress of, I could have all my clients cancel next month, and then I'm poor and can't pay my bills and have to go get a job, right? All the way to, I could have double the clients next month and I could make so much money, I can't stand it. It's so funny how quickly things can change. I've never had any of that happen, but that's always on your mind, So we always have this anxiety and stress, but we also have freedom to say, this is mine. I'm doing it for me, for my passion. If I work for someone else, it's different, but I got to tell you, so there are times when I do wake up in the morning and I'm like, this fucking job. But then I because of the hard work that I have put in developing my individual charisma skills so I can have rapport with my clients, has paid off every time someone smiles, thanks me, and says, dude, I am so glad that, someone said the other day, they said, I spend a lot of money on you and it is so worth it.
Nice.
And that I'm like,
so point.
Oh, okay, I'm doing the right thing. I never thought, I'm like, I'm going to go out and train like people to get all fit and strong, train firefighters and police. Screw that. Changing people's lives, making them feel good about themselves. Dude, that's awesome.
That's on point. And that brings us to the next one. How effective are you with manifesting your goals or your outcomes? Are there any tips you could share with the listeners or with us, with myself?
Man, I read a quote a handful of months ago that really just resonated with me. And it said, it's an old quote, and I don't know who said it, but it's, if one man can do it, another man can do it. So you could, obviously if you're a female, one female can do it, another female can do it. So if one person can do it, another person can do it. And you think about it, and no one, who accomplished anything in life really got there on accident.
Got you.
It was, it was nose to the grindstone, making mistakes, being okay with making mistakes, and saying, you know what, these mistakes aren't failures, they're lessons.
Yes.
I know what doesn't work, or I know how I don't like to work. I know what kind of clients I don't like to work with, and I'll send them away now. I'll send to somebody else, right? I'm like, red flag. But it's literally being okay with, this is a process, if we're talking about building a business or building a body, this is a process, not an event, and there's going to be a lot of pain and struggle along the way. There's going to be a lot of little mini failures, and it's okay to make a mistake, because anyone who's successful made lots and lots of mistakes and then kept moving forward.
Yeah,
that's the best advice I could probably give anyone about anything in their life, whether they're learning a lesson, moving on from a bad relationship and they want to, make sure the next one's not bad, or they yo-yo dieted and they think they're a failure because they can't stay lean or whatever. Man, that's a moral story that why the hell doesn't school teach us this kind of crap, right?
Right. I agree. Yeah, big time. So if anybody wants to know how to contact you or your services, where do they go?
So you can, for my combative self-defense martial arts stuff, you can go to progressivecombatsystems.com. And for my fitness or pain relief stuff, you can go to BC, as in Brian Copland, bccorefitness.com. Of course, you could actually go to either one and find me, so it doesn't matter which one you go to.
That's awesome. Would you like to offer any of the listeners any special offers or anything like that today, just for listening in, tuning in, if they're in the local Aurora, Colorado area?
Oh man, I thought you weren't going to put me on the spot.
Oh.
No. No, I really don't do special offers.
Okay.
Because, you know, it's like we're in the Groupon society, right?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Right. How many hairstylists and how many massage therapists and how many other businesses hate this Groupon society where people are like, I'm going to go do this. It'll be fun. I'll tell you what, I actually quit teaching beginner self-defense classes because I was sick of seeing people come and then go, because those people have a different mindset than people who are like, I want to stick around and train. So, you know, I don't offer specials to folks because when people come to me, instead I treat them special.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm with that. Now, can we go in a little bit? I just wanted to go into your martial arts side a little bit. I'm kind of
sure.
I know you practice Jeet Kune, right? But I'm sure you got other styles you add to that too over the years, huh? If I'm wrong.
Uh-huh.
So let me so what brought you into Jeet Kune? I mean, that particular form of martial art. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Yeah, great question. So I've trained in, Lord knows, so many different types of martial arts that I've even probably forgot some. You know, I mean, most people when they're kids, they cut their teeth with taekwondo and judo and stuff like that. You know, I did that too. Didn't get anything out of it, obviously, and little kid and all that kind of stuff. As I got older, I would read Bruce Lee's books, you know, and you know, thought I was getting it and didn't realize that I wasn't really getting it, but that's okay. It still influenced me. I ended up getting into boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Sambo, MMA. I trained with some Krav Maga people, and you know, I kind of went through this evolution of training. But the one thing that always bothered me, because I was training at what probably used to be Colorado's like premier MMA gym, and I don't know if it's around anymore.
Okay.
But you know, we used to have like UFC fighters come in all the time. We'd have some of the greasy black belts come in from out of state, and you know, pro athletes training in there all the time. U.S. Olympic judo team would come in and train. So I got to train with a lot of really like high level folks.
Wow. And
the one thing that always just tore the ass out of me is that I was one of the best fighters in the gym, and I wasn't even a pro fighter.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, they would, you know, I was one of what they call the gym enforcers. So if you have some schmuck who was coming in who wasn't from the gym and they wanted to go prove themselves and like start beating up on people, and unfortunately this is one of those gyms where that happened, I was one of the people they put them with to teach them a lesson.
Nice.
And you know, I was really skilled, really good at what I did, but I still didn't feel truly safe against violence.
Oh, God.
In the streets, right? And in my youth and inexperience, I didn't fully understand it. It's like Bruce Lee would say, a lack of cultivation leads to ornamentation. So I was one of these people that thought, yeah, all you really need is like, you know, Muay Thai and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and you know how to fight, right? And it's like, well, that's a statement from someone who doesn't really know how to fight. They might know how to do Muay Thai and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but they don't understand criminal violence and assaults and, you know, social and asocial violence.
Mm.
And so I try to not blab too much. I ended up going out and training with Paul Zunak, who was the creator of the Navy SEAL Team 6 program called Rapid Assault Tactics.
Okay.
And I started following some other folks like Tony Blauer, who are guys out there who are talking about, hey, that's great, you know how to fight, but do you know what it looks like when someone is about to sucker punch? Do you know what tells they give? Do you know what the tricks are that a criminal is going to try to use to get close to you in order to ambush and surprise you? Do you know what to do when there's 3 guys and they have knives, and here you are with, Muay Thai and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? Do you know what to say to the police, to witnesses, so that you don't get criminal charges pressed, so that you don't get civil lawsuits? These are things that I'm like, no, I don't know these answers. So I started training in this and becoming obsessed with these answers. And I look back at all the training I had ever done was based on fair fighting.
Okay.
Right? I mean, what is MMA? What's Muay Thai? What's Jiu-Jitsu? 2 people, 2 only, in the same weight class, in the same gender class. No weapons, no friends. When one person gives up, the fight's over.
Yes.
That's not whatever happens in the real world.
I know.
That never happens in the real world. So, and there's, of course, a tremendous amount of rules. If you poke someone in the eye or kick them in the testicles, they get a 5-minute, rest period. Why? Because the fight's over. And I started thinking about that. I'm like, well, why don't we poke people in the eyes and kick them in the testicles in our system of fighting? And I was like, well, we are now.
Come on.
So my approach is very pragmatic. And now Jeet Kune Do was a concept coined by Bruce Lee. It technically is not a martial art. It is not a style. He even says in his book, Tao Jeet Kune Do, if you were to watch Jeet Kune Do being, done by someone training Jeet Kune Do, he said you wouldn't be able to identify it.
Got you.
Like if you see like Taekwondo or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or Muay Thai or something, you can say that's what that is. If you see Aikido, you can tell it's Aikido just by how they're dressed, and you can see it by how they move. You can't do that with Jeet Kune Do. Why? Because Jeet Kune Do is formless. There is no style, and people can do it differently. I have like tiny female clients that are 5 foot nothing that weigh 100 pounds. I have a guy who's 6'8" who weighs almost 400 pounds. And if I'm going to tell them they have to fight the same way, like now she has to go give a right cross and a left uppercut and a leg kick to this guy who's built like an elephant, he's got legs like a trunk of a tree, right? It's not going to work, right? She is going to lose the fight. And that's why the way she fights and the way he fights, it's going to vary based on the situation they're in. What are they fighting for? So everything is very malleable in what we do, and that's real, true Jeet Kune Do. That was long-winded.
Yeah, but that makes sense because I just listened to a book recently. Just concluded a book, David Goggins, ex-military. SEAL, and he was talking about the same situation, about the Delta, and they was talking about how, they coming in probing the rooms and, who's behind me, this and that, who I got to handle. And it's funny too, because you remind me a little bit of a kind of Timothy Ferris a little bit, that you need to be on this show too, but just with the how you approaching your particular philosophy, not just saying is your philosophy, but just how you're looking at it, the situation. And that's really how I train myself too, because I want to be able to be multiple, if that makes sense, kind of like a Marvel in a way, but you just train to be in situations where, okay, I can be flexible. I can be able to do this if I have to. If I got to run or move or maneuver here, I can do that, or handle my business, whatever the case may be. But I want to start getting more tactical, kind of like what you're talking about. apprehending guns, apprehending knives, boom, 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 whatever, just to be, and not saying that's the point. I'm not saying that. I mean, because one thing about you, you're a very peaceful man. That's one of the things I do like about you. Your personality come off as a peaceful man, and you wouldn't know that. The typical guy would, person wouldn't know that. Oh, look at this little guy. You know what I'm saying? I'm just throwing that out there, but no insults or nothing, but just the approach. You know what I'm saying? That's what kind of interests me when I was looking at your profile before, when I was talking about speaking, having you speak once upon a time for our little our particular event we was putting on for the calisthenic event.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So that's what kind of appealed to me, your background and the things. I was like, wow, this is like the making of some, because I tend to have that's one of my disciplines. Working out is just part of my discipline. Training is just part of my discipline. I can't, that's my love of my life, if that makes sense. and it kind of, and it was interesting. Then you had Jeet Kune on top of it. I was like, oh, this is interesting, because I'm a big Bruce Lee fan, and matter of fact, I'm thinking about doing some things with Bruce Lee, having him come on the show.
Oh, is that right? That's going to be an interesting one.
Have him come on the show and talk a little bit about the philosophy, his philosophy, and how he was bridging some of them gaps and certain things. And I kind of noticed that with you too, taking some of the philosophy into self-help, self-improvement, even with your business model, and to be able to duplicate certain things. Now, I know you was an author too. Didn't you write a few books yourself too as well?
Yeah, I had a self-published grip training book. I used to be kind of heavily into grip training. I'm really not anymore, and I sold quite a few copies of that, but it's not available anymore.
Okay.
I kind of lost my passion for grip training, and there's other people that are way better at it than me anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But and then I've been published in a couple of other people's books. I've written sections or articles in the book.
Okay.
But yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's all good. Would there be anything else you would like to add to this interview before we conclude?
I don't think so. Thanks for having me on, and hopefully your listeners got something out of it that they can use to better their lives.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you, and thank you for coming on, man. I really thank you for your time and your patience and adding value. And like I said, I'm always tuned to your videos, so I'll be definitely checking it out, sending them to a lot of people myself, just to kind of some eye openers from, because some of the things you bring back, like the old school, not trying to be funny, but you bring back the kind of the Bruce Lee type mentality of the 70s, if that makes sense, especially being from the air. We kind of from the same generation, so it kind of reminds me of a lot of, kind of that 70s when every young boy wanted to be in a martial arts, you know what I'm saying, dojo. I think about the Last Dragon, and all these different, you know what I'm saying, and it's kind of funny because that attitude, that energy is you don't see that energy a lot anymore. Only with our generation. Is kind of funny when you really put it in perspective, because at once, I remember growing up with even some females that was cold martial artists, who was really into the culture. And it's like now you got a culture, is like, what has happened to the physical aspect of it, even in the mental, the spiritual, because that was one of the things too back in the day. You wanted to be the ninja, you wanted to be in disguise, get the meditation, you know what I'm saying? The things really resonated to me. They still resonate with me, because it's like the peaceful warrior, as they would say. But I appreciate your time, brother, and thank you again, and we'll end it right there.
All right. Well, thanks for having me on.
Appreciate you. Let me end it. See.